Hello and welcome to this special Q&A session with Colin Tatham. Colin joins me now on the phone from Braga in Portugal. Hi, Colin.
Hello.
Well, we've had loads of questions in for you over the last 24 hours and I've selected some of the best ones for you. If you can keep the answers fairly brief, then the fans will get their answers to their questions. Let's start off with one from David Carter, who asks, were the late substitutions on Saturday afternoon of Zigic and Wood, does that indicate that they might be playing on Wednesday night?
Not necessarily. I think the fact that obviously Zigic came on with about 19 minutes to go because Birmingham were then chasing the game and they needed to try to do something. And I think had they kept the lead and maintained it, I doubt if Chris Hughton would have made many changes. But I don't think it was with a mind to the Braga game. I think he just treats every game on its merits, and he picked the team he believes could win at Blackpool, and then now Braga arrives upon us, he will deal with that accordingly. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Zigic does start, as he did, start in the last two European games. So I think probably he believes, he knows the European scene. Opposition defences do find him difficult in Europe, the way Blues play. So I'd imagine he will, lead the attack.
And David Carter also asks, what about Liam Ridgewell? Is he going to be fit for the game?
No, Liam Ridgewell injured his thigh a week last Thursday ahead of the Peterborough game, and he's still unfit. I think they thought it was quite a bad one or a tear, but it might not be too bad. So I think it'll be touch and go again whether he returns on Sunday at Cardiff. But in the meantime, David Murphy has grasped his chance, and I think now that left-back shirt is David Murphy's to lose, and deservedly so.
Okay, and then one in from Grendon Blue, who asks, he's been worried about Adam Rooney and his future at the club. What's going on with Adam Rooney at the moment? Well,
I think in Adam's case, no disrespect to him, he was always slated to be the third or fourth striker, and Chris Wood's impact, I think, probably took everybody surprised, so that knocked him a little bit down the pecking order. And then once Nikola Zigic and Marlon King got fit, then Chris Hughton was always going to prefer two more experienced hands. So, but on the other side, Adam has made starts in Europe, and again, it could be that Chris Hughton decides to give him his head against Braga. But I don't think it's no reflection on him as a player or his form, and I know he's been working very hard in reserves and training. It's just the striker's lot. He's down the pecking order at present, and if he gets an opportunity and takes it, then he can bump himself up in that little list.
Okay. Don Blue asks, he thinks the European Cup's been the Europa League Cup. It's been a great competition for Blues so far, but he's got a feeling it's coming to an end. How do you see it? Has it been an advantage for Blues this season or a distraction?
I think it's been. I think Wade Elliott mentioned it in the Birmingham Mail. It's had a galvanising effect, and without a doubt. And I think the players have enjoyed it. They've realised how much it means to the fans, and it's got their juices going, and the performances have carried over into the championship campaign. The win in Maribor, that was the start of a 6-game winning streak, and of course, the memorable evening in Bruges in front of all those fans. It's done nothing but good in my book, and let's face it, in the Championship anyway, you're required to play 2 games a week. You've got a heavy fixture list anyway, so you're going to get used to it. So, in my view, it's not been a hindrance whatsoever. And if it does come to an end at the group stage, then so be it. But, nobody can't say that they've enjoyed the ride, because it has been something fresh, something exciting, and it definitely it has helped in the domestic campaign.
Great. Okay, and next question's up from Alex McCullough, who says he's been trying to work this out mathematically. If Blues win on Wednesday, does that mean they're pretty much through to the next stages? Yeah,
it's near as damn it. We're actually going to get clarification from UEFA this evening to see how things do stack up if all the points are locked level. But it can be decided on a head-to-head record, and that's why the Braga game is going to be so pivotal, because if Braga win, Blues lose, and Bruges win in Maribor, then Braga and Bruges meet in the last match, and of course they could carve it up and take a point to make sure Blues are edged out and they both go through. So before we get into the whys and wherefores and ifs and buts, the main thing is Blues have got to get a result. At Braga, they've got to at least come away with a draw to give them, the realistic chance of progression to the knockout stage.
Okay, and just moving away from the Europa League a little bit now, Alan asks, is it true that Zigic wants to stay at Blues despite the club looking to offload him in January?
Well, I've done a couple of interviews with Nikola Zigic, and he has stated he's more than happy to stay. He enjoys the football at the moment. He enjoys being at the club, and genuinely he likes being in Birmingham with his family. And he's a good teammate to everybody else. He's quite a funny guy, and he's not agitating to get away. And he said, that's what he said to me. And he's also said, well, if the club say I've got to go and they accept an offer, then that's out of my hands. But he has no inclination or desire to leave Birmingham in January, and that's from his standpoint.
Okay. One from Adam Neves. He says, do you think Jack Butland could push for a first-team spot once he comes back from his loan?
I think Jack's loan at Cheltenham Town is due to end December 13th, 11th, 13th, and it could well be that it gets renewed for, if not for a longer term, because I think although he's getting games with England 21, his progress is excellent. He needs to play week in, week out competitive football. Now, Bose Myhill is doing very well. He's improved week by week. I think Chris Hughton wants an experienced keeper as his number one, but it could be for me. I just have this feeling that, depending on what happens and where the club is at and what division they're in, he could well be challenging next season. But he does need to get competitive, regular league football under his belt, and that's what he's doing at the moment at Cheltenham. And if you speak to Jack Butland as well, he says the same. He's only 18. He needs more experience in the cut and thrust, maybe to make a few mistakes away from the spotlight before he gets thrust with more responsibility. Okay,
and a few fans have asked this question, including someone who calls themselves Mr. G-Man. I don't know if you can sum this one up in as few words as possible. The question is, which players are going in January and who should Blues sign?
Which players are going? We don't know. Now, nobody has said that people are definitely going to go, but the way that the finances are, it would not be a surprise, and I've said and written this all along, that if one or two go, and the likeliest candidates, you have to look at players that clubs might think, well, we could take them and they might want to go. The obvious one being Liam Ridgewell. John Beausejour as well will attract interest. He's done well. But Beausejour is another one like Nikola Zigic. He's happy. He's quite, what's the point, for example, going to join Wigan Athletic to go into a relegation battle and a struggle and maybe, end up in the Championship anyway. He's enjoying his football here. He likes Chris Hughton. So it all depends on not only what offers the club do get and how the finances are, but the state of mind of the players, because there's not a whole boatload of them agitating to get away. So it's really we won't know until January comes. Is the honest answer, and that's not fudging it. That's fact. Okay. But ultimately there is going to be interest in players, and people like Ridgewell, Beausejour, Nikola Zigic. Are going to attract attention.
Okay, and maybe one player who you think Blues could be in the market for?
Again, I couldn't tell you Chris Hughton's thinking, but I would think probably a loan market to strengthen either his midfield or up front, and it depends, who is available at that time. But he certainly, him and his scouts have certainly got their finger on the pulse, and they've been looking at a whole stack of players in readiness for that. But again, it could all depend on if he has to sell players and if he gets money in to do a little bit of business himself, like he did with Pablo Ibanez and Wade Elliott at the end of the summer window.
Okay, and last question. This one comes in from Dave Bluenose. He wants to know what's happening at the academy. He's worried that maybe things aren't as good as they could be at the moment.
Well, I think it's been quite difficult. Terry Wesley left, and obviously the money troubles began at the club. So although the Chinese owners had grandiose designs at the start, they've put things on the back burner. And Christian Speakman has sort of picked up the mantle, and he's doing a good job in difficult circumstances. That there's not a great deal of investment in the academy, but there are players coming through. I mean, Eddie Nahore recently signed his first professional contract. You look at Acton Redmond and Jack Butland. So it's not as if the Birmingham City Academy is producing duffers at all. There are promising signs there, but there's no denying the circumstances are difficult, and when they're sort of applying for the new grading system, they might not, get one of the highest marks purely because of the disruption that's happened at the club and the changes and really the sort of lack of resources that they've had at their availability.
Okay, Colin, thanks for your thoughts today from Braga. That concludes our Q&A session on Birmingham City for today.